Welcome to the Happiness Happens podcast. I'm Simona Nicole, host of the show, mindset coach, and motivational speaker. I've made it my mission to help you get unstuck, shift your mindset, and understand your worth to help you live your most purposeful life. Each week, I will bring you an idea, guest, or a positive thought that will leave you inspired and empowered to win your life. We decide the stories we tell ourselves and where we invest our energy. I'm so grateful you popped in. Now let's dive in. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode on the Happiness Happens podcast. I am so excited. I know I say this every single week, but honestly, I feel like every interview just gets even more exciting every single time. And I don't know, I'm super, super excited to bring on today's guest. His name is Matthew Baniak, and he's the founder of Stillwater Alchemy, a holistic business centered on transforming the mind, body, and soul through increased awareness and knowledge of oneself and breaking self-imposed limiting beliefs. Matthew specializes in astrology and tarot and offers accountability and support through life coaching. Through connection to both the spiritual and physical realms of consciousness, Matthew provides his clients with the tools and knowledge needed to cultivate success, vitality, and love so they can reach their full potential and acquire whatever life they desire. Welcome to the podcast.
That was a very proficient, quick reading of my bio. I'm very impressed.
Thank you so much. It's not my first rodeo.
For sure. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to have you here. I would love if you could share with our listeners just a little bit about yourself, a little bit about the journey that's brought you to where you are today and how you sort of found yourself in this world that you're in.
Totally. So I come from a very conservative Eastern European background, but I was always interested in woo-woo things, astrology, probably from age 8. My mom brought a book home because my mom's an Aquarius. So she, even though she's in that realm, she definitely still kind of believes in all this stuff as well.
I love that.
And so just knowing all this and elemental magic, even playing video games with knights and kings and queens, it's always been a thing that I loved, even just from a young age. And doing past lives and knowing that I've had connection to that kind of medieval energy, it's just living out that in a 2020 lens, which is the tarot and the astrology and the life coaching and then the alchemy component. So it's just always been there. I feel it's just my soul fulfilling that in this day and age.
Oh, I love that so much. How did you go about, and I don't know, depends how far deep you want to go into this, but how did you figure out what your past life experience was? Because I feel there's so many people who some people will believe in past lives, some people don't. We don't have to go into specific beliefs, but was there something that you did to be able to access that part of your past/history?
Yeah, there's a couple things. I always just felt connection to certain people or certain places. For example, may seem very gay cliche, but every time I go to San Fran, I can be doing nothing but walking around. I'm at peace here. I love it here. I don't have to be doing anything touristy. Just walking around the streets, my soul is happy. And I work with my mentor, life coach. Her name is Michelle at the Auric Life. She's amazing. She's so intelligent. And she introduced me and trained me in past life regression. So having her have that for me, because I've had other spiritual gurus do past life on me and then tell me what they're seeing, which is one way of doing that.
Yeah.
But the way that I was trained from Michelle is that you're actually guiding the individual through their past life. So either they're actually in it, they can see everything through that first person lens, or they're looking at themselves as if they're watching a movie, and then I'm guiding them and seeing it at the exact same time as well. That
is crazy. How can you do that?
It's just the shamanic gifts.
I'm
and everyone's psychic. I just want to throw that out there. And the most basic psychic tool is our intuition. Everyone has that. It's just whether or not they want to cultivate it. And it is a daily practice. When it's for some reason I just feel I need to go to the grocery store today, and at that hour, and then it's everything's easy, everything you need is on sale. You get to the cashier and then you look behind you and there's a massive lineup to get into the grocery store because it's 2020. So things like that, where it's, if you can just honor that intuition, it grows. And I guess just have that all. And even if looking at my own natal chart and looking at the asteroids and the planets, it's like all these shamanic and psychic principles are just like heavily laden in my chart.
Oh my God, I love that. Okay, how could someone, when you're looking at your chart, what is it? I'm like, I have 400 questions. Yeah.
Also, because what is your zodiac sign? Because you have to have like some kind of Aries or Gemini, because you just like talk also a mile a minute like me, but then also very inquisitive and curious.
I'm a Sagittarius.
Fun.
But I don't know if I have like full Sagittarius qualities. Like I have some, but I know a lot of other people who are Sagittarius, and like we're not really the same.
Yeah, because often I always tell my clients too, in terms of compatibility and just overall energy, you want to look at your rising and your moon sign. If you were born at night, a lot of times you resonate with your moon as the main luminary over the sun. And that's what everyone looks at, is their sun sign as their zodiac sign, but it's so much more than that. So I was just like kind of curious. Sag is like the eternal teacher, and like there's also another podcast I listen to called The Astrology Hub, and the main host of that is a Sag. So it's like a fun connection with like the podcast, interviewing, talkative energy.
I love that. I think I'm going to have to check out that podcast so I can learn some more. But it's interesting that you say that, because I was born in the morning. And so, so if you take a look, so where would you go to like look at what your chart is? I guess the most basic.
Totally. A lot of people may not know their exact date of birth, and it does get that specific in terms of your rising or your ascendant sign will take place, because obviously there's so many different time zones. But you can just literally type into Google natal chart, just like look it up, and then it'll just bring so many different links where you just plug in your date, birth time, everything, and it'll give you your whole entire chart. And then through that, and through different techniques and different progressions. And then if you throw the asteroids, which is more of an advanced technique, and you have to have different programs in order to do that, because there's over 22,000 asteroids. So
wow.
Yeah, I'm just like obsessed with it, obviously. So I've like studied with some of the biggest astrologers right now, who have then studied with like other huge astrologers. So it's just good to like be in this mix and to learn from all these people, because my Mercury is in the sign of Sagittarius. So I just like love learning nonstop and just continually knowing more.
That's really, really cool. So I guess from there, when you like start to identify what signs are in which area, like you can like learn more about all of those different areas. And then I guess you get a holistic view of who you are as a person from like an astrological point of view.
Yeah, so to answer your question, I guess, Neptune is a huge part in terms of creativity and more psychic abilities, if you had to pick one of the 10 planets, right? And so there are 12 different houses for the planets to be in, and the angular houses, so the 1st, 4th, 7th, and 10th, but primarily the 1st and 10th. If Neptune was there in your natal chart and had strong connection to, say, the moon or Mercury, then that would have a bigger impact on you as a person. And for me, Neptune is in my 1st house, and it's also making big aspects to other key places in my chart. So if I see clients with Neptune as a predominant part of their natal chart, I would say in terms of being an artist, an actor, dancer, performer, or someone who's very spiritual, that they should use that as a part of their life. Or if they're going through a big transit in the upcoming year, and Neptune is there, I'm like, you should really start thinking about a creative push or working with creatives to make this next year better.
Ooh, that's really, really cool. So in that case, then, is there a way to know what planets are in like what? Okay, so I'm very basic when it comes to this kind of stuff. Okay, so I'm trying to get the language right. But so if you are in like okay, so you know, it can be like Virgo new moon. Like, how would you know when are you watching my wheels turn inside my head? Oh my God.
I think it's funny too, because a lot of people are the exact same, but like they have no idea. They're like, I am super curious, but what does this mean? And tell me more, kind of thing. So it's like seeing it in real time for those that are watching the video of you just being like, tell me more.
Tell me more. And I'm trying to be specific with my questions, because like I want to know everything, but I also like, if you start talking about like sixth house and like 12th this, I'd be like, huh? Like,
Right.
what?
Right.
But still really, really good to know. So I guess like in that case, so how do you know, is there like a calendar of which planets are in which new moon at which time?
So that's all going to be dependent on your own rising sign, because that will then determine which sign rules over which house. And it's actually kind of funny that you said sixth house, because that's the sign that Virgo rules.
Oh.
And so sixth house energy in terms of work, health, and routine are linked to Virgo. And there's even some controversy as to if there are certain signs that rule over certain houses, because a lot of the traditional astrologers don't believe in that, but it's more of a modern approach. But it does make sense. There are like too many coincidences and links with different signs having different power in different houses. So that's controversial for people that are really into astrology. But in a modern sense, Virgo rules over the sixth house. And for people that would say have an Aries rising, then Virgo would rule their sixth house.
Okay. So like, how would you figure that out? Would you just like figure that out through the chart?
That you'd have to know your exact birth time. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm so excited to tell you what mine's going to be after this episode. Yep. That's what I'm doing the rest of my night. I love it. Did you always know that you had these sort of like psychic abilities and how, or that you are a psychic? I shouldn't even say abilities, because that is what you practice, but okay. Butchered the question, and I'm not going to edit it because that's not how I roll.
Very raw. I feel like people like seeing the authenticity more. Oh my God.
You know what? It is what it is, because it's like, I think that sometimes when people want to learn about something new, or people want to ask questions and they're not sure, I think people don't ask questions because they're worried about getting it wrong. But it's like, if you just step up and you just own that you're probably going to make a mistake and you're probably not going to get it right, you've already sort of won half the battle. And
like, honestly, in terms of like being an entrepreneur, like sidebar here, I think that's such a huge lesson, even that I learned being a business owner. And for everyone who's afraid of putting themselves out there, just know you're probably going to make a mistake, or just know that you're probably going to fuck it up or mess it up. I don't know if I can swear.
Oh, you can swear.
But I mean, like,
I'm still going to hit clean on the podcast episode. I'll be like, yes, this is a clean episode.
Yeah, fair. But just knowing that, and there have been times too where I like will do something, I'm like, oh, I could have done this better, I could have done that better. It's like, no, but I'm still putting myself out there, which is already, like you said, winning, and acknowledging that you may make a mistake along the way. And as long as you just own up to it, then you're fine. It's like you've safeguarded yourself, and the ego can't get in the way, because you're like, I don't care if I make a mistake. I do care because I'll learn from it, but it's not going to paralyze me from moving forward.
Exactly. I find that's actually like one of the biggest reasons why people get so stuck or stay so stuck. They like don't think that they can, move past if they make a mistake. But it's like, if you look at, it's kind of like the 5 minute, or like the 5 rules of 5. Like, if it's not going to matter in 5 minutes, or is it going to matter in 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days, 5 years? Like, that's how you can judge how big the problem is, right? But I think that there's like so much fear that like everything that we put out, especially as entrepreneurs, has to be like quote unquote perfect. But who's sitting there judging like what's perfect or not? Because you can spend hours trying to write a caption and someone can still say, yeah, that didn't resonate with me. Do you know what I mean? And so whatever's perfect to you might not resonate or come through the same way to somebody else. And you've just sort of wasted all this time when you could have just taken some action. And I think everything that I've done, Matthew, in my business has been messy action. I'm just like, let's do it. We're rolling through.
It sounds like a Sag energy. It's like, we're doing it live. Like, let's just keep doing it. And we'll be like, and again, that's almost like people relate to that though. Like, perfection isn't relatable. Like, no one can be like, oh, I wish I was that, because they're just going to be insecure, which is the other side of ego anyway. So if you can just be vulnerable when you have those moments, people are going to resonate with that a lot more than you'd ever know.
Oh, I love that a lot. I like that you said it's on the other side of ego, because I feel like there's, I feel like ego is just like such a huge player. And I also feel like it is, especially right now, as people are learning to sort of like undo their ego and like turn inwards. And like, so many people have experienced such massive life shifts in 2020, right? All of these things, like the job that you went to defined you, you know what I mean? How many hours you worked meant how successful you are. And I think that a lot of people are starting to unlearn all of these different things. So I love that you said that about ego, because I think for a lot of people are just starting to realize like what their ego is actually like, Yeah. So going back to my question. go back to my question, not your question,
Yeah.
about being psychic. How did you know that you were psychic? And can you tell us a little bit about like what this gift is like and what it's like, you know, on a day-to-day, and when you interact with people and like your clients and that kind of thing?
Yeah, like I think I grew up like I'm a kid of the 90s, right? So whenever I think of psychics, I always think of like neon lights, like in
Crystal
a dark room in a
ball.
corner. Yeah, exactly, right. And so part of me when I'm like, oh, I'm just reading tarot, it's like I get that it's psychic work and then you're foreseeing things, but a lot of times too I'll get visions during a reading. And so I've incorporated that as more of a bigger proponent than just cards. I'm like, okay, like this is a vision that came up, and I'll have clients like cry, or clients be like, oh, like that definitely resonates. Sometimes the downloads and like those premonitions are even more not accurate, but I think they're just as useful as me reading the cards, right? And a lot of the themes that are coming up are collective energies. Like you're not the only person that is working with a podcast right now and connecting with people, right? It's like in a past life, you were probably someone who would sit with someone and have these stories being told, right? Like none of this is really new. So if you can just tap into that part of yourself, I guess, kind of going back to what I said about the intuition, everyone has it. And if you lean on it every day, just like if you go for a run every day, your lungs are going to get stronger, your heart is going to get stronger. So if you tap into your intuition and trust it, that's even like talking with certain people. It's like, I just don't think we're meant to connect, or it's like that opportunity doesn't seem good for me. You're then trusting your intuition, trusting your higher self. And then those gifts are just going to grow to the point where your intuition is so crystal clear, you're not going to mistake it for ego or fear, that you're like, nope, even if this seems good on paper, I'm not going to say yes. Or it's like, I just need to stay home today and not go out, back when we could go out to like the club or whatever. And you just like, you just know when things are working in your favor, because that intuition, that voice is like a touchstone that you can always go back to. And I always tell clients, like, it's as simple as when you go for a walk, just ask, should I turn left or right? It's like, I meant to see whatever I'm meant to see on this walk. And your intuition will guide you, being like, go left, go right. And that's such an easy way to build that. And then you'll turn left and you'll see a bunny, or you'll see your favorite color of a car drive by, or certain things like that, right? And as long as you're open to receive all this, you'll just get these more intuitive hits. These gifts will grow. And then you can just start playing with it more, where you can like really start visualizing and manifesting. I feel like those are all like psychic gifts, again, like manifesting, but not just a typical like way that people go about it. I'm not even sure if I'm answering your question properly.
No,
but
I'm here for it. I'm like, yeah, let's just keep on going. Yep, sounds good.
It's just like started with my intuition, and then just grew more and more and more the more clients I work with, and the more I use these esoteric tools like tarot, or just like visualization or meditations that I lead. It just continually grows with that. And it just, like 2 years ago, this wasn't as big of a part of my life, for sure. This has all definitely come in primarily in the last 6 months of it just kind of like going like crazy, just because I've been focused on it like 12 to 16 hours a day.
It's insane. Your gift is absolutely crazy though too, like in the best way, because I don't remember how we got connected. It was probably through Matt Tarot, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Definitely. He's like, he's one of my favorite people, I think, on this planet.
Yeah, he loves
I hope he's listening. Shout out. You were just on the episode, okay? Or you're just on the podcast, Matt, okay? It's like a lot of shout outs for this year. I'm just kidding. So anyway, so we got connected, you know, and I found you, and I was like, oh my God, who is this? I was like, how am I just learning about you now? I was like, oh my goodness. And everything that you put out is like incredibly accurate and on point. I've watched all of your Sagittarius tarot readings, and I'm like, oh my God. And there was even one part, it was so specific. And it was along the lines of like, I can't remember when it was, I think it was a couple months ago, but you had said something like, there is someone in your life with a specific letter. I won't say it in case somebody's listening. Specific letter to like their name that you're not sure of what their intentions are. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, how did he know that? Like and it was so accurate, because it was true. That specific person with that specific letter of their name was down to a T accurate. And so I just think that it's absolutely wild. And so if you guys, like whoever's listening right now, like you need to go to his page, you need to go and check out his work. And then you need to click the link in his bio to donate to the work. Okay. It's so important. I think that it truly is. I think that it's so important because, you know, people think about like, okay, how can I how can I support my friend's business? It's not hard. $5, $10. It's not hard. It's, you know what I mean? Or like sharing something for free, getting the message out there, tagging somebody in, liking it. And you know what I mean? Like there's such simple ways.
And I think
go ahead.
I was gonna say it's very Sag energy. Like there's enough for everyone. Like the ruling
Yeah.
planet of Sagittarius is Jupiter, which is a planet of good joy and good fortune. Like I had a great experience a couple of weeks ago where I was with some friends after a workout, and there was just a homeless man that came. And I usually don't have any change on me because it's always like Apple Pay on my phone. But I had my wallet. So I'm okay, cool. I'll just grab whatever change I have and give it to him. That's so easy. And then literally 15 minutes later, I checked my phone and I had a reading come in, and someone had tipped me $20 for a tarot reading. And all my readings, like I price them accordingly just based off of my time and my expertise and everything. But then I showed my friends, I'm like, so I literally gave this gentleman some change and I got a $20 tip on top of my hourly rate. And so it always just comes back. And that's where if people can start viewing as their money and their investments as a circle, that it's always going to come back to them in whatever way that is. It may not be exact monetary value, probably will be better, to be honest.
I think it always is, to be honest.
Yeah. But you have to be able to let go and to realize that money is just energy. And if you don't think that it's going to come back to you, then you probably have those same limitations around love and opportunity.
Ooh, I love that you said that, because I feel like you focus a lot on relationships, right? And like helping people with relationships and love. Partly?
It does come up a lot in readings and in life, especially in a year like 2020.
Oh my God. Yes, people are probably like, how am I going to meet my partner sitting on my couch for 3 months? Like, oh my goodness.
And just like people want that companionship, especially if they are entrepreneurs and they're holding space for a lot of people with this frenetic energy. Like, I get it. It's like, I just want to cuddle with someone who's like, I got you. And just in general, like this year hasn't been intense. And a lot of people do suffer from really intense mental health issues even before. So now you're telling them to cut them off from their family and friends and they have to isolate. It's a lot.
It is a lot. It's really a lot. And like, I think about it, like for myself, like I live with my grandmother and my fiance. So there was always somebody, do you know what I mean? And like, we actually had like the best time because we just got to hang out all the time. We made pasta, we made pizza.
I was
like,
gonna say, you're Italian, right? Like,
oh my God.
To, like,
yes.
So does your like now like make pasta from scratch, like have these amazing family recipes? You're just like, I can eat pasta and live my best life and like have all the bougie, like
exactly. I'm like, why would we ever go to work ever again? And I'm just kidding. No, she doesn't make homemade pasta anymore, but she always makes her own dough and makes her own bread and her own pizza. Oh my God. Like it is on another level. And she makes these like fritters, like the amount of food, like why don't you just swing on by.
You have like a gay brother or cousin, send them my way for sure.
Done. Welcome to the family. You know what? You can just come on down. It's okay. Oh my goodness. I love it. I love it. Love it. How does all of your ability to tap into your intuition, your, pretty much all the work that you do for other people, how does that allow you to stay aligned with yourself?
It is interesting because my whole background was in kinesiology and academia. So I actually have a master's degree in kinesiology from UBC in Vancouver. And then I was like, I always wanted to be an actor. Like I was always in drama, like wanted to be on stage when I was little. Like that has always been a thing, right? And so even this year, right before the pandemic, I auditioned for a Netflix movie. And then like 2 days later, quarantine hit. So there's just been so much.
Wow.
And again, my sixth house of work is ruled by Geminis, and it's a very Gemini energy. Be like, I can do this, I can do this, I can do that, I'll do this. And so like, yep, for sure. But I just think now I'm being called to, at this point in my life, to hold space for people and to help everyone. Because it is an interesting energy, like even going back before with that like quintessential 90s psychic energy of like, these people just like preying off vulnerable people wanting to take advantage or like just say what they want to hear and being like, oh, for an extra $200, I can remove this black energy around you. I'm very much like, again, Mercury and Sag, I want to teach people how to fish, not just give them the fish nonstop. And so with holding space through life coaching or just helping to educate them and show them kind of their life purpose and what their gifts are or where some potential challenges could be in their natal chart with astrology, I just want to help people help themselves. Truly, it's like, help me help you so that you only come to me every 2 weeks or every month instead of like being a weekly thing. If people need the accountability, I'm all here for it for sure.
Totally.
But And I was even talking with another astrologer that I am now working with because I just really love her work. And she's like, I really do think that counseling and psychology will be a part of your life sometime down the road based on where you're going and where your secondary progressions are. And I was like, okay, I was like, I want to be like in Hollywood. I'm like, nope, Spirit's like, you need to take a seat and help everyone else first. I'm like, okay, cool.
Maybe you'll be like a counselor for actors.
Who knows, right? Like if you would have told me I'm being sitting here with you right now in January when I was like manifesting LA, I would have been like, no, girl. Like I am gonna
Try
be
again.
in Venice Beach. I was like, I'll be in Venice Beach.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you think you still want to go out back? Like, do you still want to do that? I want to quickly pause this interview and tell you about the Handel Group coaches that I've had the honor and privilege of bringing onto the Happiness Happens podcast. With every conversation and interview, I've learned something so impactful and so life-changing. Inner You Life is the online coaching course from Handel Group that gives you the tools to get yourself unstuck, wildly happy, and thriving where it matters most to you. Your relationship to yourself, career, love, body, money, time, and more. From wherever, whenever. Recommended by Hugh Jackman, Dr. Mark Hyman, Forrest Whitaker, Elena Brower, and hundreds more. Taught in MIT, Stanford School of Business, and 50-plus institutes of learning across the world. Visit inneryou.coach and use the code HappinessHappens at checkout for $75 off. Now, back to the episode.
I've been auditioning nonstop. I got a new agent right around the Aquarius full moon in August, and it was just like perfectly aligned. And I've been auditioning more than I've ever been auditioning. So that's also like balancing two businesses of like having everything aligned there with Stillwater, which is a huge blessing. I understand that. And also just like you said, too, holding space for all these people, because a lot of people are going through a lot. This year is intense for everyone. Even if it's a lot, it's still a lot. And so making sure that I'm staying grounded, making sure I'm fueling my body with the right foods and beverages and all that so that I can be of service to them. And I'm like, I have mastered the power nap. Like I literally had a nap right before you because like this Mars retrograde is not playing at all.
Can we talk about retrogrades?
Yes, let's talk all about it.
Oh my God, I'm dying. Okay, what exactly is a retrograde? And
so
how do we know which planet it's in? Is it always Mars? Because I feel like everyone's always like Mars is in retrograde again, and it's like
no, it's always Mercury is the most like buzzworthy astrology thing. So retrogrades always happen. A lot of people have a planet or a few planets in their own natal chart that the planet was retrograde when they were born. Okay. And so all it is a planet slowing down, giving the optical illusion that it's moving backwards in relation to the sun. The sun just keeps moving, right? But it's like if the planet's slowing down, it looks like it's moving backwards. So in the sky, we're tracking it and it's moving back in degrees because every planet has an arc, or like every zodiacal sign holds 30 degrees in the sky, making up 360 degrees. And so say right now, Mars is currently retrograde in the sign of Aries. So it's moving backwards in degrees for its 2-month retrograde period. And so each planet has different retrograde periods that it'll go through. And the one thing that's particular about Mars is that it only goes retrograde every 26 months.
Of course it does. Of course it's here right now.
So it's a lot, and it's very similar. And Chris Corsini so Chris Corsini is also a huge tarot king, amazing spiritual guru on Instagram. So if people have not heard of him, go check him out. But him and I did a Mars retrograde workshop that people can invest in if they so choose, where we literally talk about the specifics of what this Mars retrograde in the sign of Aries will mean for the next 2 months. But for a lot of people, it's like really assessing where they're directing their energies. And it is a lot of fatigue. It's a lot of potential for burnout because Mars is our divine masculine energy. It's our drive. It's our sex. It's everything. So when it's retrograde, we're asked to slow down. But it's also right now, Mars is making a square aspect to Saturn, and Saturn's all about discipline and hard work. So at least on my end, it feels like we're being called to do twice the work with half the energy.
Yeah, I'm feeling the same way, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of goes back, makes me think too of what we were talking about before we hit record.
Yes.
You know, and when I was like, I'm supposed to have launched this program, and you're like, like, maybe just wait. And I'm like,
Yeah,
I like you. I will. I will wait.
It's just good to know because, like, for example, my moon is in Aries and I'm a Scorpio sun. And both of those, from a traditional sense, are ruled by the planet Mars. So I know that this transit is going to be affecting me a lot. So I need to know when to step back and when to block off certain days from booking clients, because if I don't, then I'm just going to completely burn out and I'm not going to be of service to anyone. So knowing this, or it's like for Geminis and for Virgos, their ruling planet is Mercury. So without fail, whenever Mercury goes retrograde, all of my Gemini friends lose their minds. I feel like Virgos are a bit more stoic and they don't reveal that they're losing their minds. But Gemini rules the nervous system. That's the part of the body that it rules over. So literally every Mercury retrograde, Geminis are just like not having it.
They're like, oh my God, we're here again. Does it happen often? The Mercury?
Yeah, the Mercury retrograde happens like every 3 months.
Oh my gosh, that's exhausting.
But it only lasts for 3 weeks, as opposed to like this Mars retrograde happening for 2 months. So it's like,
wow.
And again, the Mercury retrograde is good too. All retrogrades, the silver lining is to literally to tell us to slow down, because we live in a toxic, not a toxic, but like toxic masculine traits are very prevalent in our world today of just like working 80 hours a week. How many times can you have sex? Who are you hooking up with? What kind of income are you making? Not how kind you are, how much you're giving back to the collective, honoring your intuition, right? And those are more feminine energies. And so slowing down and resting our feminine energies of being able to enjoy the fruits of your labor and making that power move and then reaping the benefits. Like women can have multiple orgasms. Women can literally take a sperm and egg and produce a child. You know what I mean? So the female energy is about multiplying. Male energy is like just doing something and cool, it'll have a reaction. But when you start to honor the rest, and then I get it in terms of like, I want more money, so I have to work more, which can be the case if you are someone who's a bit more passive with regards to working. But if you already work extremely hard and you're putting in like 40, 50, 60 hours a week, you probably need to work less so that you can allow that creativity to flow and allow for those intuitive downloads. Like I said, we're all one collective consciousness. And a lot of times when I get great ideas for content and for quotes, it's because I'm just slowing down and on a walk. And I'm like, oh, that would be a really great quote. And that just comes to me, quote unquote, but I'm taking time to slow down and put the screens down and just go for a walk.
That's such a good point. You're really creating space for it in your life, like your space for it to actually happen. And
exactly.
I love so much that you said that. And I feel like it's so perfectly timed too, because I feel like a lot of people don't take enough time to celebrate where they're at. So let's say you're a coach. Let's say you are any type of entrepreneur. How many times do you actually celebrate? Like, do you celebrate when you get a new client? Do you celebrate when a client is done even? Do you celebrate, anything? Like, do you celebrate like a day that, you really enjoyed? And I think that it kind of goes back to like what you were saying before with the feminine energy of like kindness and being like appreciative. And like, I say this to my clients all the time, like if you don't appreciate the $5, you're never going to appreciate the 1,000, the 5,000, the million, right?
I always say that too, like if you're not willing to invest the $500, then you're never going to be able to invest the 5,000 or like the 500,000. Like if you can't let go of that money now or like appreciate that money now, then you're not showing that you can double that, triple that, quadruple that in the future. Because again, it's like, I always kind of say it with my clients is that golden carrot principle, being like, well, I'm just going to wait until I make this much money, then I'll celebrate. But there's always going to be that golden carrot, because once you reach that income or that goal, then you're like, okay, well, now I want to do this, or I want to get to this many followers, I want to get to this. It's like you realize that the golden carrot's in your back pocket the entire time. You can be like eating it and enjoying the scenery, not chasing it on a hamster wheel that you've created in your mind.
I love that. And that's such a good point too, this hamster wheel idea. And I love this so much because it's very representative of the way that people think that we need to live every single day. Like very go, go, go. Do everything now. Do everything today. Like, and it's like, but what is the purpose? Do you know what I mean? Like, what is the purpose? What is the why? Like, I always go back in my mind. I'm like, okay, but why? Like, why? It's my favorite question. It's like a 2-year-old when it's like, it's raining. Why? Or whatever. And you ask your parent like 1,000 times. Yeah.
Yep.
can you explain to us, so in terms of all, okay, so you have retrogrades on one side and
Yep.
you have all of like the entire moon cycle.
Hmm.
Obviously they're kind of, are they intertwined?
They can affect one another. So, for
Okay.
example, the moon moves zodiac signs every 2.5 days. And so,
Oh,
right now,
okay.
the moon just moved into Virgo because it's going to be the Virgo new moon Thursday, September 18th, depending on when this gets launched, at
Mm-hmm.
approximately 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so, right now, since we have so much energy in cardinal signs, so cardinal signs are Capricorn, Aries, Libra, and Cancer. We have so much in Capricorn right now, like Saturn is currently retrograde in the sign of Capricorn, and Mars is currently retrograde in the sign of Aries. So a lot
Oh,
of my
wow.
clients that have a lot of cardinal energy are feeling it. And I am also one of those people, being a Capricorn rising and an Aries moon.
Oh, wow.
When the moon goes through a cardinal sign, so Capricorn, Aries, Libra, or Cancer, there is a lot of this exhaustion or emotional longing for love or just frustration because the moon is feminine energy, but it's also our emotions. And so there are different aspects in astrology. So conjunction, square, opposition, trine, and sextile, which we obviously won't get into now, but just noting the moon cycles and where the moon is will help you. If you're feeling a certain type of way, you're like, where is the moon? Because a lot of people like to throw it
Is
into
it?
Mercury retrograde. They're like, it's Mercury retrograde, I'm going to starfish for 3 weeks. But knowing where the moon is in relation to the other planets is huge, especially if you can use it to launch important things. So I have a service and I work with my clients that work with me one-on-one, that if they want to launch something, if they want to sign a contract, even just like sending an important email, there's a field of astrology called electional astrology. So you can elect a certain time of day down to the minute for you to do something. And
Wow.
so it may sound woo, but I've done it, full transparency, with like certain posts or certain sales that I launch based on when it's good for prosperity or for communication. And those posts go viral.
What's it called again?
Electional astrology.
Ooh, that's really, really crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel
So
like,
a lot,
no, no, go ahead.
I was going to say, obviously, it's common for like marriage or starting a business or signing a contract or opening up a storefront, obviously, but you can literally use that for anything. And it's beneficial because then it's just like having that another tool in your belt of having that kind of like professional astrologer being like, this is the time, do it now.
I love that a
Yeah.
lot. And I mean, I feel like it makes a lot of sense. A lot of people who listen to this podcast are pretty woo. So we can go
Perfect.
full, we can dive right in. I mean, and
Yeah.
if they're not, I mean, they're probably very curious about it because
Right.
I mean, pretty much most of my guests are all very spiritual in some sense, some more than
Yeah. Yeah.
others, some with more scientific backgrounds and what have you. But I feel like everything is so interconnected that you can't just have one without the other. You kind of need them to coexist together, you know?
Yeah, well, even Ronald Reagan during his presidency, it's been recorded and proven that he had like an astrologer beside him, or he would hold press
Wow.
conferences at like abnormal hours that wouldn't make sense for anyone to view them
Wow.
live, but it worked for him. And so I have no doubt that huge people in power have an astrologer on hand to know when to launch things. Even when Black is King was released, Eastern Standard Time, it was like 3 in the morning. I'm like, why would you launch something for New York, Toronto, Miami at 3 in the morning? That didn't make any sense to me. And then I was like, oh, she obviously just picked, like, Beyonce has her moon in Scorpio, so she definitely has some woo woo energy in her for sure.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Um, what type of like power does the moon hold over us? Like, why are we so affected by where the moon is positioned?
I mean, there's a lot going on there, but I will just say, based off of the planets, the moon and Venus are the only ones that represent feminine energy. If we look at the asteroids, there's a lot of goddess energy that's present there that never gets talked about because, of course, like many things in astrology back in the day, it was all driven by men who
Mm-hmm.
wanted to focus on all the things. Even the one asteroid gets talked about a lot in a natal chart is Chiron, the wounded healer. But all the other divine feminine asteroids, like Juno, which is the asteroid for marriage, which most people would want to know about where that falls in their natal chart, or Pallas Athena, which is like your warrior goddess energy, and where that is in relation to, say, Mars or Jupiter or Mercury in your chart would also be beneficial. And like Athena being the goddess of like war and strength and power, it's like, yeah, like maybe we should focus on these a bit more. But anyway, the moon is just powerful because it does rule that feminine energy. And Venus obviously plays into that too, but the moon just encapsulates that. And all the other planets, aside from Mercury kind of being neither gender, is that when we look to our emotions, when we look to the feminine energies, that's what the moon represents. And the fact that it does move so frequently in between signs, and it goes through these really big lunar phases like the new moon and the full moon, it just is affecting us more and more. Even like a month, a moon, like it's connected in that way too, because the moon has a 28-day cycle, and most months are like 30 days, right? Or February being 28. So it's all linked together.
So crazy. I have so much homework to do after this. Like I'm so intrigued. And I think, you know, I just love everything you said. So I'm like, yes, keep going. No, I'm just kidding. In terms,
I could talk about it forever. So
well, right. In terms of like, okay, did you have any like challenges, or was it hard to sort of take every single part of who you are and just be very confident in who you are?
Yes and no. Like growing up in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, before I came out as gay, like that was its own thing, because I didn't come out until 2010. So I was 19. And then it's obviously gotten significantly better. But when I go back home, it's not as liberal as Toronto. Naturally, right? Or like I lived in Vancouver when I did my master's, and Vancouver is definitely much more open, even probably more so than Toronto, let's be 100%. Honest. So it was just interesting having to go through that transition and just be confident. But I think once you get to a certain age, like I'll be turning 29 in November, like you just honestly don't care. Like there's billions of people. You care, but you don't care. I should phrase it like that. Of course, when you're running a business and you're an entrepreneur, you obviously care what people think. But in terms of just being authentic, like how you had that like run-on question, you're like, I'm just going to leave it, because people appreciate the authenticity. And when people are just vulnerable, that is more important, I think, than trying to be this stoic, beautiful statue that, it's nice to look at maybe once in a while on like a magazine cover, and not denigrating beauty. Because like my Venus is in Libra. I love when people put in the work, make sure they take care of, like I love skincare, obviously. However, I think
I can tell.
Once you get over that, again, the ego and the mind and that like hamster wheel being like, I have to be like this, I have to be like that. There's what, like 7-8 billion people in this world. You're not going to appease everyone, and you're not meant to serve everyone, especially as like light workers, coaches, whomever. You're not going to be able to make a perfect product that you can sell to everyone, but you're going to attract the people that really resonate with you and that are going to connect with you. And those are the people that you're meant to lead and to serve. And again, even bring it back to like an acting perspective, there are certain roles that I get, I'm like, I don't even really like this. Again, is like not in my wheelhouse, not that I'm opposed to the challenge, but I'm like, there's probably so many other people that would encapsulate this role so much better than I ever could. And of course, that's obviously the job of being an actor.
Right.
But certain times you're like, no, like I'm not going to play this role because I'm not going to do it justice. Just like certain clients, I'm like, oh, I can refer you to someone else. Or like, are you a psychic? Are you a medium? It's like, I'm not a medium, but I can refer you to someone who is. And so just knowing your strengths and knowing what you stand for, I think that's just key for like any entrepreneur. And like you said it beautifully before, like what is your why? Like, why are you doing this? Why do you need that income? Why are you so fixated being like, I have to make 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures? If you're not going to appreciate making money at all right now, and there's so many people that don't have any, you're not going to be able to hold space for making 10 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand a month, because you're not even like, why is it so important to you? So I think for me, to circle back around, once I just got really firm on what I need to do to make myself happy, and then creating those very firm boundaries from like the haters or people trying to use my energy and just like take and take and take.
That's such a real thing.
I'm not sure if you feel that in the DMs, or just like people coming to you like Trojan horsing, being like, hey girl, how's it going? Emotional dumping. And it's like, this is not what I signed up for when I thought that you were being a friend.
No. No, I've had some really like insane, like, client calls. So when I first started my business, I used to do like discovery calls, but I would make them an hour because
Wow.
I don't even know why. Cause I just was like, I just want to help. You know what I mean? I'm like,
Of
I just
course.
want to,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was coming from a place of wanting to help. There was a couple times though, these calls turned into like 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to get off the call because, oh, these people are telling you so many personal things.
Right.
And you want to hold space and you don't want to be like reject what they're saying. Do you know what I mean? But it's like it was 2 hours. You know what I mean? I could be on the phone till like 11 p.m. Like, oh my goodness.
And that'd be like doing a 2-hour humongous intense boot camp where you're just putting your body through a ringer. Like, it is like sometimes when I'm getting in a certain type of energy, I'm like, oh, this isn't my energy. It's because I need to like do so much more cleansing. And like everyone listening who is in this line of work, it's like healers need healers. Like I have people that I go to on like a bi-weekly, monthly, 6-monthly base to be like, okay, like I need a check-in, or like I need Reiki, or I need someone to hold space for me because I've just been holding space for like 12 to 20 clients a week. So I need to chill and recharge.
Exactly. Oh,
Yeah.
it's so true. It's so, so, so true. And I didn't know that for a very long time. And so I'd always wake up, I'm like, oh my God, okay, who's going to do it all over again? You know what I mean? Like, and then you just kind of, all these people that you meet all day long and, you know, dealing with other people's problems. And it's just kind of like, where does it end for me? Do you know what I mean? Like at what point do I just kind of protect myself? And it takes a long time, I think, to be able to do that, or like to, I wouldn't say a long time, but like it takes time to feel confident. Yeah, it can.
Because like when you get to a different level and you're serving more people, or like you're reaching a bigger audience, whether that is on Instagram or just your day-to-day life, because once people realize that you do what you do and you start getting more confident and you elevate your own frequency, you're going to attract more people, right? And so just having those boundaries so that you can enjoy a weekend away with your partner or your friend or your family members and not be glued to your phone. Because that's such a real thing right now, is that always wanting to serve and to help people, but then making sure that you're still getting to enjoy your life and not allowing your obligations or your desires to help. Not, because I've had times where it's like week after week and you're like, you get to Sunday and it's like, I just like need to sleep for like a minute, right? But it's like, I don't want to, like, the whole point of running a business is to work less and to make more than working a 9 to 5, right? And so, and clients respect you when you take that time to get grounded and you're rested and you show up at 110% for that client. They can feel that instead of like always just trying to like get in another client. I think that's what people also don't understand when they're like, oh, when are you free next? I'm like, oh, my next availability is till this date. I'm like, well, can I get in sooner? I'm like, well, no, because I've had these other friends, especially when it's friends, quote unquote, being like, why can't I just see you today? I'm like, because these people have paid a price and have waited for 3 weeks to get in for this time, and I want to honor that.
That's exactly. I work full time during the week, and so I only take on 2 clients a month, which sounds crazy because some people are like, oh my God, like, you know, you got to have your 10K month and this is it. I'm like, that is not the priority. Do you know, for me, it's very much like, how can I help people and show up as my best self? And I know that if it's more than that, it's not, you know what I mean? In this current moment and the way, anyways, so that's a whole different topic, but you know, you have to know
it's important though, like not even in this line of work, but anything, if you're just like chained to your desk and you feel like you have to put in this many hours, it's like, who are you really helping at the end of the day?
Exactly. I think it's so important. Boundaries at work is like one of the biggest things that I think people need to do more of, because you're not like living to go to work every day. You know what I mean? And I think when you are doing that, you're doing that because there's something within you that needs to be healed and you don't know how to heal it and you don't know what it is. So instead it's like, okay, I'm just going to bury it under some work and just call it a day. I see it so much with my clients all the time.
And there's like wounds usually around masculine, feminine, and their father of trying to be like something that they feel like they need to be. And then they don't realize until they go through like a Saturn return. And then it's like, oh, like now you're 55. Not to be like nihilistic or sardonic, but sometimes that is the case, especially like, I don't know if you work with older clientele, but a lot of my clients are usually fall in the range of like 30 to 50 most times. So I just see it a lot more prevalently when they're going through those transits and like, oh, like just be aware that this is most likely to come up, or like these are things that are going to happen.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. A lot of my clients are men, which is really interesting.
All mine are like female.
Really? Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it's like finding that balance, right?
Yeah.
Or like that other perspective. And so
yeah.
who knows? And again, like I'm sure you've had the same thing where people like, I just felt called to get a reading from you. I just felt called to connect with you. And so that's another thing too, that we talked about like surrendering and just letting it go and being authentic, which I think is like a main focal point in this podcast. Just like once you just allow yourself to be who you want to be, you're going to attract the people that you're meant to serve, not trying like putting on this like, I'm going to be this type of light worker, this type of individual, because you're going to attract weird energy and you're going to feel even more drained. Because like, why am I attracting weird clients? Like, because you're being weird and the universe doesn't know what to give you.
The universe is like, I'm very confused with what you're asking for right now. So like, oh, trial and error, right? Oh my goodness.
Totally.
Okay. This is my, I guess like second last question for you. And I think you may have just answered it, but I'd still love to know, how could someone create a little bit more happiness in their day every day starting today? It's a question I ask all my guests.
I eat pasta every day. Every single day I eat pasta. And people are like, you can't have a 6-pack and eat carbs. Like again, the whole 90s, like Atkins, keto bullshit. Like again, I specialized in sports nutrition when I did my undergrad. And so it's like, it's such bullshit. Like people tell them stories in their head of being like, I can't be making like 10K a month unless I do this. It's like, no, you could have one product that goes viral and you can make 10K in a day. But people have to believe that in order for it to be reality. So if you constantly believe, if I have that cookie at lunch, if I have that croissant, if I have pasta, then I'm not going to be thin. You're literally going to reject the food because it's not going to be an energetic match. And so overall, I do at least one thing a day that I'm actually like, whether it's watching like an episode of Friends while I'm cleaning and like laughing, or like eating pasta every day. And again, I'm like Scorpio, so fixed. Like I like my structure and routines, but if you're not doing at least one thing that you can like laugh or make you happy per day, whether that's like having your cup of coffee and just like sitting and enjoying it, how are you going to be making space for bigger things that can make you happy? And that's usually when I'm like not happy, quote unquote, because I'm just like not honoring myself or not making like giving space to things that can make me happy.
That is a really great answer. I don't think anyone's ever said that before. Look at you throwing it down.
There you go.
I love it. Where can our listeners find you? If I know they're going to want to learn more.
Totally. Like it's Stillwater Alchemy across all platforms. So Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, just Stillwater Alchemy, all one word.
Perfect. Yeah. I will put it in the show notes so everyone can find you.
Beautiful.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on today. This was so fun.
Thank you for having me. And again, I was like, is that an hour? It's like, I guess it is. Like,
no, yeah, it is. I was like, what? I could stay on here forever. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I tend to just continue talking and I just really, really enjoy it. Sometimes after an episode, and I'm still recording, so this is going to be live, but whatever. Sometimes after I recorded with a guest, like I end and I'm like, okay, so like, tell me. I know. I'm like, I thought we were friends. Like, let me just go get my dinner and like, I can come and sit. And one time I had a drink with someone afterwards. It was great. Like so many things happen behind the scenes, you guys. You just got to roll with it and enjoy the moment. I think that's the best thing.
Yeah. And just like put yourself out there too. Like a lot of people, last thing I'll say, a lot of clients and friends are like, well, I feel like I have imposter syndrome, or I feel like it's hard to put myself out there. But once you do it a couple of times and people like a couple times, like a couple months and years, we're talking here, like don't give up before you even started.
Oh, so key. Because so many people do, because they don't believe in their dream enough. And you never even get started because you didn't believe that you could. Ooh, that's good. Thank you. Amazing.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning into this week's episode on the podcast. I hope you loved it. If you are watching, screenshot, share it with us. Let us know. Ooh, I'm feeling this right now. You are a vibe, and I like it. Anyways, thank you guys so much. Have an amazing week, and remember that happiness happens when you are least expecting it.
Thanks so much for being here today. I hope these words have brought you inspiration, insight, and a bit more happiness. Please leave a comment or review if this episode resonates with you. I would be so grateful. Until next time, remember that happiness happens when you're least expecting it.